So we're doing economics, right?
Yeah, we can do economics.
Okay. So, uh, 1 minute. Let me find the textbook. My internet is slow.
Okay.
Just a second. Go. Okay. We have to do supply, right? In chapter
Right.
10.
Yes.
Okay. So, can you take class in the evenings as well? Around 9:30? Because from tomorrow I'll be going to college.
Okay.
So I won't be available in the afternoons.
Um, okay, sure, sir. I will do it 9.
Okay.
Okay.
So, chapter 10, supply, right?
Right.
So, in the previous chapter, we have studied about the meaning of demand for a commodity, determinants of demand, and the law of demand, right?
Right.
But the buyers will be able to buy a commodity only when it is available in the market. So, the question arises, who supplies the commodities to the market? A commodity must be produced first, stored properly and transported to the market in order to be available for the buyers. So take the example of toothpaste, right?
Right.
And so a commodity must be produced first, stored properly and transported to the market in order to be available for the buyers. Okay?
Okay.
Have you ever visited an agricultural farm? Now gives another example. Since farmers produce food grains, fruits and vegetables, etc., on their farms, they are the producers of these commodities. Similarly, consumer goods such as garments, soaps, toothpaste, toothbrush, shoes, pens, etc., are manufactured in the factories. Producers of each item are called manufacturers, right?
Right.
Buyers buy these items from the seller in the market. So, you or I, when we buy, for example, garments or soaps, right?
Right.
We are the buyers, and then we buy them from the sellers, that is the shops, right?
Right.
So the shops get it from the manufacturers. So the original producer and the seller in the market could be the same person or different persons. So, for example, a manufacturer may have an outlet, right? So
Right.
it could be the seller and the manufacturer could be the same person or different persons. So the manufacturer can give it to the wholesaler. Wholesaler will give it to the retailer, right? And we
Right.
buy it from the retailer. So it can be the same person or different persons. If they are different, it simply means that the sellers in the market have procured these items from the original producers. So the sellers, okay, have procured these items from the original producers to sell them to the buyers in the market. So the buyers are you or I people, okay?
Okay.
So the farmers, manufacturers, and sellers supply the commodities in the market, right?
Right.
And they are called producers. The production unit in which production of a commodity takes place is called a firm, right?
Right.
Thus, we can say that firms supply the commodities. So, so who supplies? It's the firms. Okay.
Okay.
Uh, so next 10.1 meaning of supply, right?
Right.
We should not confuse between availability of a commodity in the market and the supply of that commodity. So availability is different from supply.
Right.
They are not the same. Even if a commodity is available, it does not mean it has been supplied. The definition of supply is given as follows. Supply of a commodity is the quantity of the commodity that a seller offers for sale at a given price at a given time. So what do you mean by supply? It is a commodity, quantity of the commodity that the seller offers for sale at a given price at a given time. So three factors. One is the quantity, the second is the price, third is the time. Right?
Right.
Definition of supply includes the following three things. The quantity of a commodity offered for sale by a seller, the price of the commodity given in the market at which the seller is willing to sell that commodity, that quantity of the commodity, and the time period during which the seller is willing to sell that quantity of the commodity. So examples of supply. Ganga Singh sold 120 liters of milk at a price of 25 rupees per liter during last week from his dairy farm. So examples of supply. What do the examples of supply contain? Quantity. Here it's 120 liters. And price. That is 25 rupees per liter. And what is the time period? It is last week. Right?
Right.
Similarly, in the second example, the fruit seller, the quantity is 600 kg of apples, time period is 15 days, and the price is 50 rupees per kg. Okay? A
Okay.
firm called X Limited sold 8 quintals of sugar. That is a quantity, and the price is 2,800 per quintal in one day. Right? So time period is one day, quantity is 8 quintals, and price is 2,800 rupees per quintal. Okay?
Okay.
The grain merchant sold 300 quintals of rice at 2,000 rupees, 300 rupees per quintal in the month of August. So note that the time period may vary. It may be a month, a week, or 2 weeks, and so on. Okay. Now
Okay.
we come to stock and supply. The total quantity of a commodity available with the seller firm at a particular point of time is called stock. So when the seller or the firm, right?
Right.
Or in other words, the producer or the manufacturer, okay? He produces, he manufactures. That's called a firm. So when the firm or the producer or the manufacturer, all three terms are mean the same, they're synonyms, right? Or seller,
Right.
right? So when the seller or firm produces the commodity, the total quantity of commodity available at a particular point of time is called stock. So, on the other hand, supply is that part of the stock of the commodity that the seller is ready to sell at some given price during a given time period. So, from the stock, he sells a certain quantity at some given price at a given time period. Okay?
Okay.
So, supply is a flow, right? So,
Right.
stock is measured at a particular point of time, whereas supply is measured over a period of time. Okay?
Okay.
Take the example given above. The grain merchant supplied 300 quintals of rice at rupees 2,300 per quintal in the month of August. Let us say that the merchant procured 820 quintals of rice on the first day of August 2011. This was called the stock as on 1st August 2011. So the stock is 820 quintals, but the supply is 300. Hence, 1st August 2011 is the point of time at which the stock has been measured, right? So it's a point of time.
Okay.
So the supply of 300 quintals at a price of 2,300 during August was the flow. So during the whole month of August, the supply was 300 quintals at a price of 2,300 rupees per quintal. in August, right?
Okay. Right.
Since there are 31 days in August, we term it as a period of time. So from 1st August to 31st August, it's a period of time during which the supply has been measured. Over these 31 days, the merchant sold some amount every day, which, if added, becomes 300 quintals at the end of the month at the given market price of 2,300 rupees. So, supply is a part of the stock of the commodity, right?
Right.
Now, in text questions 10.1, I made a video, I'll send it to you. Okay,
You have sent it, sir.
I have sent it. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So, next 10.3, factors affecting individual supply, right?
Right.
What factors influence the individual supply of a commodity? The most important factors are the following. So what factors influence the supply? They are the price of the commodity, technology
Mm.
of production, price
Mm.
of inputs, price of other related goods, objective of the firm, government policy. So price of the commodity is an important determinant of supply of a commodity, right?
Right.
When the producer produces a commodity, he incurs a lot of expenditure in factors of production and raw materials, etc. So you take the example of car, right? When the producer produces a car, he incurs a lot of expenditure on the factors of production. Factors of production, remember, land, labor, okay, and entrepreneurship and price, right? So land, labor, entrepreneurship, and one more, right? So those are the factors of production. So there's a lot of expenditure involved in the production of a car, and even raw materials are there, like steel, plastic, glass. Okay, so incurs a lot of expenditure on factors of production and raw materials, etc., which we call cost of production. So let's suppose the cost of production of a car is 1 lakh rupees. He can recover these costs by selling the product at a certain price in the market. So if he sells the car at 1 lakh 20,000 rupees, he'll make a profit of 20,000, right? So he can
Right.
recover the cost of one car, and over a period of time, when he sells a lot of cars, he will recover the cost of the factors of production or expenditure on the factors of production. Okay,
Okay.
so since price is also the average revenue, higher the price, higher will be the average revenue, and accordingly, higher will be the total revenue, right? So,
Right.
so price is a very important determinant of supply. So he has to decide a certain margin of profit. So that margin of profit, he, okay. So that will determine how we will recover the expenditures on the factors of production. Okay. So
Okay.
technology of production and improvement in technology of production reduces the cost of production per unit of the commodity, right? So
Right.
let's suppose there's a machine which can, you know, paint a car at 10 cars per every day. 10 cars per every day. It can paint 10 cars every day. So if there's an improvement in technology and a machine comes along which can paint 15 or 20 cars per day, then the what? The number of cars produced will be more, right?
Right.
So that increases the margin of profit of the firm. So if he produces 15 cars or 20 cars and he sells them, the margin of profit of the firm will be higher. So improvement in technology, right,
Right.
will increase the profit of the firm. This induces the firm to supply more of the commodity with the use of improved technology. On the other hand, if a firm uses old and inferior technology, it increases the cost of production per unit of the commodity. So if another firm keeps the same old painting machine, then it can only sell 10 cars in the market. So what will happen to the profit margin? It will reduce, and reduces the margin of profit. which leads to decrease in supply of the commodity. Okay?
Okay.
So technology will play a very important part, right?
Right.
So next is price of inputs. Suppose a firm is producing ice cream. Now let's take the example of ice cream. If the price of milk falls, the cost of production per unit of ice cream will fall. It will lead to increase in the margin of profit per unit, right?
Right.
So the firm will increase the supply of ice cream. On the other hand, if the price of milk increases, cost of production per unit of ice cream will increase. It will lead to decrease in the margin of profit and firm will decrease the supply of the ice cream. Thus, if the price of any input used in the production of a commodity falls, it leads to decrease in cost of production per unit, and as a result, supply of the commodity will increase. Okay?
Okay.
On the other hand, an increase in price of any input used in production of a commodity increases cost of production per unit and decreases supply of the commodity. So remember, the final price will be the same, right?
Right.
So if you can buy one liter of ice cream at 100 rupees, that 100 rupees won't change. But if the price of milk increases, right, then cost
Right.
of production will increase, but the final price sell remains the same. So it decreases the supply in the market, right? On the other hand, if the price of milk falls, then it will increase the supply of ice cream, and it'll make more sales and get more profit, right? So
Right.
price of inputs. Next, price of other related goods. Supply of a commodity is also influenced by the price of other related goods. So what does it mean? It gives an example. Let us suppose that a farmer produces two goods, wheat and rice, with the help of given resources. If the price of rice increases, it will be more profitable for the farmer to produce more of rice. The farmer will divert his resources from production of wheat to the production of rice. As a result, the supply of rice will increase and that of wheat will decrease. Okay?
Okay.
On the other hand, the fall in price of rice will result in decrease in supply of rice and an increase in supply of wheat. So those are related goods, price of related goods, right?
Right.
Next, objective of the firm. Different firms have different objectives. Some firms have an objective means goal, right? Principle to maximize their profit, whereas some have a objective of maximizing sales. Some other firms may have an objective to increase the goodwill prestige, and some may have an objective of increasing employment opportunities. Okay?
Okay.
A firm having an objective of increasing sales may supply more of a commodity even at a lower price. Okay? The
Okay.
supply of a commodity is influenced by the priority given to the objective by the firm and readiness to sacrifice the one for the other. So, next is government policy. Government policy also influences the supply of a commodity. For example, if the government increases the rate of value-added tax, it's called goods and services tax here, right? It's called VAT, and here it's called GST, right? Or
Right.
if it increases the sales tax on a commodity, it will increase the cost of production per unit, which will decrease the supply of the commodity. So what is tax? See, sales tax means that if the firm produces one unit of the commodity, the government will take a small percentage. It can be 0.5, 0.8, 1% also as tax, right? So,
Right.
and the government uses that tax money to build roads and things like that. So the government, you have to pay the tax, right? So sales
Right.
tax, value-added tax, all these things are used by the government for infrastructure development and so many things, right? So where will the government get the money from? The tax? So tax has to be paid. If it increases the tax, what will happen? It will increase the cost of production per unit, which will lead to decrease in the supply of the commodity, right?
Right.
On the other hand, a reduction in the tax of the commodity will decrease the cost of production per unit and increase the supply of the commodity. Okay?
Okay.
So this is how government policy will influence the production, right, of a commodity or the supply
Right.
of a commodity, supply of a commodity. Okay?
Okay.
Next 10.4 individual supply schedule of a commodity. Supply of a commodity by an individual firm is called individual supply. So one firm producing one commodity, that is called individual supply, right?
Right.
In order to construct an individual supply schedule of a commodity, we need information on quantities supplied at different prices, right?
Right.
So quantity and price. In all the examples of supply given earlier in this lesson, we have only mentioned a particular quantity of the good supplied at a particular price over a given time period. So remember that example. The farmer produces, supplies 300 quintals of rice at 2,300, 800 rupees per quintal in the month
Right.
of August, right?
Right.
So that's only one price, one quantity over a given period. We know that in reality the price of the commodity does change, right?
Right.
Now let us ask the question, what happens if the price of the commodity changes? Accordingly, it is expected that the quantity of the commodity will also change. Let us take an example of X Limited, which sold 8 quintals of sugar in a day at a given price of 2,800 per quintal. Suppose the price increases to 2,900 rupees per quintal. It is found that X supplied 9 quintals of sugar in a day at this price. Similarly, if the price is increased to 3,000 rupees, the quantity supplied increased to 10 quintals. Further, at the prices of 3,100 and 3,200, the quantity supplied increased to 12, 10 and 12 and 15 quintals respectively. This information about different quantities supplied at different prices given in table 10.1. So this is called a supply schedule, right?
Right.
So in one column we have price per quintal. It varies from 2,800 to 3,200. And then in the other column we have quantity supplied of sugar per day in quintal. It varies from 8 to 15 quintals. Okay?
Okay.
Such a tabular presentation of different quantities of a commodity supplied by a firm at different prices is called individual supply schedule. Okay?
Okay.
So this is the individual supply schedule of X Limited. Okay?
Okay.
So 10.5 law of supply. Just now we said that 6 major factors determining supply of a commodity are price of the commodity, price of other related good, price of inputs, technology of production, objective of the firm, objective of the firm.
Okay.
1 minute, I'll press the wrong button. And government policy, right? So you must
Right.
remember this. What are the major factors determining supply of a commodity? Okay, you must remember all these 6 factors. Okay,
Okay.
a change in any one of these factors may lead to change in the quantity supplied of the commodity. Suppose we want to know the manner in which the quantity supplied of a commodity changes due to change in one of the factors. In other words, let us try to know the changes, the effect of change in any one factor of the commodity supplied. To know this, we must keep all other factors unchanged or constant. To begin with, out of 6 factors, let us consider the effect of change in price of a commodity on the commodity, the quantity supplied. To know this, we must assume that all the factors such as price of related goods, price of inputs, technology of production, and government policy remain constant or do not change, right?
right,
So only the price varies. All the other factors remain constant. All the other five factors remain constant. This relationship between price and quantity supplied when all other factors other than price of the commodity remain constant is called the law of supply. Consider table 10.1 again, the one above. It shows different quantities of sugar supplied by X Limited at different prices. In the table, you can only see two columns on price and quantity supplied. The absence of columns of other factors implies that they are held constant. You can see that when the price of sugar is 3,000 rupees per quintal, the firm offers 10 quintals of sugar for sale per day. So just now we went over the tabular column, right?
right,
So uh, so we'll read the part in bold. We can state it as a law in the following manner. All other factors determining supply remaining constant, the price of a commodity and its quantity supplied are directly related. So directly related means that as the price increases, the quantity supplied increases, right?
right,
Directly related or directly proportional also. They both mean the same, right?
right.
So that is called the law of supply. So I'll read that again. You have to keep it in mind, okay?
Okay,
All other factors determining supply remaining constant, the price of a commodity and its quantity supplied are directly related, right?
right,
The law of supply can be explained with the help of another example given in table 10.2. So table 10.2, supply of mangoes by one, right? Price of
right,
mangoes varies from 20 to 60 rupees per kg, and quantity supplied of mangoes per day in kgs varies from 100 to 500. So we can see that as the price increases, the quantity supplied by one also increases, right?
right,
The table is actually 10.2, it says 12.2. The table 10.2 shows about different quantities of mangoes supplied by one, a seller of mangoes at different prices. One supplied 100 kgs of mangoes per day when the price is 20 rupees, and when the price rises to 40 rupees, is ready to supply 300 kgs per day, and so on. Thus, the quantity supplied become increases as the price of mangoes increase. This is in accordance with the law of supply, right?
right.
And so this part in tabular column is called the supply schedule, individual supply schedule. Now we look at the supply curve, right? So to
Yes,
draw the supply curve, I'll go directly to it, right? So a curve means you have a graph. On the x-axis of the graph, you have quantity supplied. On the y-axis, you have the price of mangoes, right? Price
right,
of the commodity. So as the price increases, the quantity supplied also increases. So the same information put in the form of a graph is called a supply curve, right? Okay.
okay,
So for see figure 10.1 individual supply curve. You can see that at the price of 20 rupees per kg, the quantity supplied was 100 kg. 20 rupees per kg, the quantity supplied was 100 kg. At the price of 30 rupees, the quantity supplied was 200. So where they meet, you put a point and join the points, and you get the supply curve, right?
oh, right,
So draw them, join them with a straight line, or join them, you'll get the supply curve. Okay? You don't really have to draw the horizontal lines and the vertical lines. For
okay,
example, you don't have to draw from 20 to A, from A to 100. You don't have to draw those lines. Okay, I think
Okay.
that's only for reference, right?
Right.
So shape of the supply curve. This is also they may ask. According to the law of supply, when other factors determine supply remain constant, a firm offers more quantity of a commodity for sale at a higher price and less of it at a lower price. Due to this direct relationship of price and quantity supplied of the commodity, supply curve is upward sloping. Upward means it goes upward from uh, left to right from the origin, right?
Right.
Uh, okay. So upward sloping. This means that the supply curve, which looks like a straight line in the diagram, starts from a point closer to the origin and then moves upward towards right. Now the question arises, why does a firm supply more quantity of a commodity at a higher price? So why does it supply more quantity of a commodity at a higher price? Obviously because the profit will increase, right? And
Right.
there are other factors. And less of it at a lower price. That is, why does the supply curve slope upwards? The following factors are responsible for upward slope of the supply curve. So factor one, a rise in price of the commodity causes rise in profits, right? So if he
Right.
supplies 500 kg at 60 rupees per kg, the quantity of the profits will increase. As a result, firms are induced to supply more quantity of the commodity to increase profit. A rise in price of the commodity induces a seller to dispose of at least so a rise in price of the commodity causes rise in profits. And as a result, firms are induced to supply more no, I added that, sorry. Uh, Factor two, a rise in price of the commodity induces seller to dispose of at least a part of his stock. The reverse happens when there's a fall in price of the commodity. Okay?
Okay.
Three, an increase in the price of a commodity causing higher profit attracts the new firms to enter the market, and this adds to the supply of the commodity, leading to more quantity supplied at a higher price. Right?
Right.
So in next question is 10.2. I'll send you the video. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Uh, so we'll read this part 10.8. Okay.
Okay.
Market supply of a commodity. X Limited is not the only firm in the market supplying the sugar. There may be other firms also supplying sugar in the market. In order to know the total quantity of sugar supplied by all the firms taken together in the market, we have to simply add the individual quantities at prevailing price and time. So we'll look at the example, right?
Right.
The resultant quantity will call the market supply of sugar. So this is the law of the market supply of commodity. Hence, total quantity of a commodity supplied by all the firms in the market at a given price at a given time is called market supply of that commodity. Example, suppose there are only three firms, X, Y, and Z, who are supplying sugar in the market at a price of 2,800 rupees per quintal. X, Y, and Z supplied 8, 10, and 15 quintals of sugar respectively in a day. Adding these quantities, we get 33. So the market supply of sugar is 33 quintals per day at a price of 2,800. Right?
Right.
So market supply schedule. So we saw the individual shovels schedule, right? So
Right.
there was only one manufacturer or one producer. Now, market supply means the total quantity supplied by all the firms in the market, right?
Right.
So we'll go directly to the table 10.3, market supply of sugar. There are a few of 5 columns. So in the first column, your price which varies from 2,800 to 3,200, and you have three firms supplying sugar: firm X, firm Y, and firm Z. And then the market supply is got by adding the supply of firm X plus firm Y plus firm Z at different prices, right?
Right.
So at a price of 2,800 rupees, firm X supplied 8 quintals, firm Y supplied 10 quintals, firm Z supplied 15 quintals. So the market supply was 33 quintals, and so on. So at a price of 3,200 rupees per quintal, firm X supplied 15 quintals, firm Y produced 17 quintals, and firm Z produced 25 quintals. So total market supply of sugar at a price of 3,200 rupees per quintal was 57, right?
Right.
You can see in table 10.3 that when price of sugar is 2,800 rupees per quintal, firm X supplied 8 quintals, firm Y supplied 10 quintals, and firm Z supplied 15 quintals of sugar per day. Therefore, market supply of sugar at a price of 2,800 rupees per quintal is 8 plus 10 plus 15 is equal to 33 quintals per day. When the price changed to 2,900, supply of X, Y, and Z was 9, 11, and 16 quintals, which comes to 36 quintals. So the market supply of sugar at 2,900 was 36 quintals. Okay?
Okay.
So similarly, you can see the individual and the market supply of sugar at price of 3,000, 3,100, 3,200. So in text questions 10.3 also I've answered. I'll send you the video. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Uh, can we continue this evening?
Okay.
Okay.
Mm,
We're stopped at page 106. Is it okay?
okay. Only two pages are left.
Only two pages are left. Oh, okay, okay. So next 10.10 factors determining market supply. Okay.
Okay.
So all the factors which influence individual supply of commodity also influence market supply. In addition to these factors, the market supply of a commodity is also influenced by the following two factors: number of sellers, firms, expected future price. So, see, all the factors which influence individual supply of a commodity. So, what are the factors which influence individual supply of a commodity? They are okay, they are the, 1 minute, price of a commodity, right?
Right.
Then, 1 minute, the price of a commodity, price of other related goods, price of inputs, technology of production, objective of the firm, and government policy. All these factors affect individual supply. They also affect the market supply. Okay?
Okay.
And in addition to those, we have two others: number of sellers, firms, or expected future price. Right?
Right.
So, number of sellers or firms, market supply is an aggregate. Aggregate means total of all individual supply schedules in the market. Consider table 10.2 showing market supply of sugar. There are three firms X, Y, and Z supplying sugar in the market. Now, suppose another firm W comes into existence and starts supplying sugar. What will happen to the market supply of sugar? Market supply of sugar will increase. So there were three firms, now there are four firms. And the fourth firm is firm W, right?
Right.
So the market supply will increase, right? So market supply of sugar will increase. Therefore, it is clear that if the number of firms increases, market supply will also increase. On the other hand, if the number of firms decreases, the market supply will also decrease. Okay?
Okay.
So expected future price. So expected future price means they will have an idea of how the price will rise or fall in the future, right?
Right.
So if the price of a commodity is expected to rise in the near future, the firm will supply less quantity of the commodity at present in expectation of higher profit due to rise in price in future. So let's suppose they expect a rise, the price of 1 kg of a commodity is 100 rupees. They expect the price to rise to 120 rupees per kg in 1 week. So they'll supply less quantity now. In 1 week later, they will supply more quantity because they'll make more profit. Okay?
Okay.
What if the price of a commodity is expected to fall in the near future? Firms will offer more quantity of the commodity for sale at present in expectation of less profit in the future. So let's suppose they expect a fall in the price to 90 rupees per kg in 1 week. So they'll supply more at 100 rupees per kg and they'll supply less 1 week later at 90 rupees per kg. Okay.
Okay.
So in text questions 10.4 I have answered. I will send you the video.
Okay,
Okay.
sir.
So what you have learned, what you have learned. Then after that, you have to answer the terminal exercise.
Okay.
Will you do that?
Yeah, I will do that.
Okay. We'll stop there.
Yeah, we can stop it.
Okay. Thank you.
But thank you, sir.
Tomorrow,
Bye.
tomorrow in the evening. Okay.
Okay, sir. Sure.
Okay. Bye. Thank you again.
Bye. Thank you.